The ultimate rice bowl in my opinion. This is crispy crumbed pork set in a beautifully soft and tender egg omelette. You guys are gonna love this Japanese katsudon. So Japanese katsudon is one of those dishes that looks like a really hard restaurant dish, but with a few of my little tips and tricks, you guys are totally going to be able to nail it at home. But let's talk about the pork first of all, because I think that's one of the most important parts of this dish, is getting the seasoning of that pork just right and the crispy coating just right. So if we start and have a look here, I've just got some pork loin fillets. And now I want to flatten these guys out a little so they cook quicker in the pan and more evenly. Just put some baking paper on top and then go at it with a rolling pin. Now I want these guys about 1 centimeter thick. Let's have a look. Okay, that's looking good. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to dry brine these pieces of pork. So you would have heard of wet brining. That's where you dip your meat into a salty solution of water and salt, obviously. I actually prefer the dry brining method. I think that it keeps your meat a little bit more dry, which allows better cooking, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, what you want is to very liberally salt these, both sides. And then what you need to do is exercise a little bit of patience and leave these guys to sit around for about 30 minutes. You could do 2 hours or even overnight as well. And that's gonna allow that salt to liquefy and the pork will soak up that liquid salt, making everything juicy and perfectly seasoned. Okay, so let's come back and have a look at our pork, and you can see some of that salt has turned into liquid on the top and on the plate, so I know that that pork has absorbed some of that salty goodness. Now what we want to do is crumb these guys. So first of all, I want to pat dry any of that kind of liquid that's left on top of the pork. So just use some paper towel. This just means we won't get any liquid interfering with our crumbing process. And I've just got a standard crumbing procedure set up here. Some flour, I need an egg, and then I've got my panko breadcrumbs as well. So these are a Japanese style of breadcrumb, really light and fluffy and crispy. Okay, so take your pork, and if you've watched a lot of my channel, you would know that I have my own system, which is left hand, wet hand, right hand, dry hand. This is gonna help keep your fingers nice and clean when you're doing the crumbing process. So left hand in with the pork, right hand comes in and puts the flour on top, then into the egg, and then left hand takes over, and then into your breadcrumbs. And I find with panko breadcrumbs that you can get a lot of variance between brands as to how coarse and fine the actual breadcrumb is. So what I like to do is just grab a hold of little handfuls and just squish it between my fingers, making sure I get a nice fine coverage on my pork. Okay, so the other few little bits and pieces we've got to get ready before we get to the final cooking part is our sauce. So I'm starting off with some chicken stock here, and then to flavor that, I'm going to be using my Marion's Kitchen teriyaki sauce. So I've made mine the way I love it, just a really beautiful, simple seasoning sauce flavored with a little bit of garlic and onion. Now, if you can't get a hold of this, I have a recipe for how I make this from scratch on my website, so you don't have to miss out. And I want a good few tablespoons of this. See how that's not too thick? With teriyakis, it's all about the magic that happens in the pan and not about how thick it starts out. So that should really start to caramelize and develop a really beautiful flavor in the pan. And then to that, I just want to add a little bit of sugar, just mix that through. And now for the egg that's going to bind everything together. Okay, so now we're going to be cooking our crispy pork. I'm just going to check the temperature of my oil just by pinching a few panko breadcrumbs and putting them in. Okay, so that's a good sizzle. I don't want a really, really hot, fast sizzle because I want to allow the pork enough time to cook through. Okay, a nice, gentle, sensible sizzle. Now the secret to getting really good even color on this kind of crumbed cutlet at home is to keep it moving. So I'm going to turn these over after a minute or so, just when they're barely golden on the bottom. And I'm going to keep them moving around in the pan so I'm not getting any dark brown hot spots. So altogether, I want about 5 or 6 minutes of these guys cooking, flipping them every so often. And then I've got a little trick that we can use to figure out if that pork is cooked inside. Just wait. So when you think these guys might be ready, what you want to do is just take a metal skewer or even the tip of a fine knife, like a filleting knife, and poke it into one of your cutlets. Leave it for a couple of seconds And now just touch it to the top of your lip. And if it's warm, that means we've got it cooked all the way through. If it's cold, then you need a few more minutes. But that one is just perfect. So I'm going to take these out. And as with anything that's crispy and crunchy that's just come out of the hot oil, you just want to hit it with a little bit of salt. And now one last thing to do before we hit the pan, and that is to slice up our pork. Okay, so to finish everything off, we need a little bit of oil into a clean pan and some sliced onion. And then whenever I'm softening onions, I always add a little pinch of salt because that helps to draw out the moisture from the onion and helps them to sweeten up and cook a lot quicker. Now I need you guys to be patient here because undercooking your onions is like the worst thing you can do for any dish. I want to make sure these get really nice and soft and sweet. And just when I can start to see a little bit of that chariness happening on the edge, I'm going to add my sauce. Now, as I mentioned before, of any good teriyaki sauce, you really want the magic to happen in the pan. So I'm going to allow the sauce and the onions and that heat to start to thicken and really develop the flavors in here. A couple of minutes at least. Now, I'm just going to go in here and taste because that's the only way to make sure that we're on the right track here. Yum, that sauce has developed into a beautifully sweet, slightly salty flavor, onion, and just a little hint of garlic from the teriyaki sauce as well. So good. Okay, so now we can go in with our pork. We'll try and keep it as close together as possible, those pieces. And then here comes the fun part. Pour that egg all around the pan, a little bit over the pork as well. And then just let that bubble away. And then turn the heat down a little bit. And I'm gonna put the lid on just for a few minutes to let that egg set. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, pure magic. It smells so amazing. I love how beautifully soft and tender that egg is. And now the next fun part, how do we get this magical creation out into your rice bowl? Okay, so the easiest way is to just divide up the egg and the pork with your spatula. And now non-stick really is going to be your friend here, guys. I would highly recommend it for this one. And there is no delicate, beautiful way to do this except for just kind of try and get it in the bowl. We'll fix it up later. Main thing is to try and keep that pork together. Now that's looking beautiful. Time for our second one. Now if you just take a spoon here and tuck those overflowing egg pieces into your bowl. And then to finish off, I just want a little sprinkling of spring onion. So there you go, guys, Japanese katsudon that you can make at home. It's totally worth the effort. I love the contrast of the crunchy pork and then that really silky egg. Because of that sauce and the egg and the onion all together, it's just created, it's like a little bit saucy, a little bit omelette eggy, but so soft and tender. And that caramelized onion is just divine. Hey guys, so my marinades and sauces are in Coles in Australia right now. They're in the sauce aisle. That's where you get your tomato sauce. I hope you can try them, and if you like them, why not share them with a friend? Thanks guys, see you.